we'll do the live thing first. Like, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bigmark podcast. It's me, your host, Bigmark. If it's your first time listening, welcome. If it's not, welcome back. Like I always say, if you ever want to reach out to the podcast, let us know any topics. If you ever wanted to join the podcast, please let me know. Hey, honestly, if you're listening to the podcast and you are my friend and you want to come on the podcast, don't feel bad that I haven't asked you. I want all my friends to be on the podcast. It has nothing to do with you. I don't know if anyone wants to be on the podcast. So, like I said, reach out. Let me know. That's how all my other guests have come on. Thank God. Thank God for all y'all. But again, reach out on our Twitter or Instagram at the Bigmark Pod, at the Bigmark Podcast. You can donate to the podcast on our Patreon.com or on our Patreon at patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. We'll keep the lights on here, so to speak. And again, I always thank each and every one of you for taking your time to be here with me tonight. You could have been anywhere in the world and you chose to be with me here right now. So thank you all. If you have time, give us a review and rate us and share the podcast. Let your friends know. We love all y'all. And I was doing my preparation for this episode, and I was I have some other topics that I've already got lined up for other episodes, but you know, when I was thinking about doing this one, I kind of wanted to let the ideas kind of flow a little bit more with this. You know, I kind of did a little bit of a shorter podcast last time, and you know, I kind of was like, yeah, what is making me stick to those half-hour topic ones, or you know, especially if I wanted to do a little bit more of these free-form stream of consciousness kind of episodes. I want to end them when I feel like they have an ending, right? So I feel like I've maybe drawn out a couple episodes where they didn't need to be as long as they were, or even shortened ones that probably I could have spoke about even longer. So what's holding me back? Who knows? But today, again, I wanted to kind of explore that idea a little bit more, and you know, maybe have a beginning, middle, and end to things, or maybe not, or again, just kind of flow through the episode and see kind of how things go. Shout out to the new T. Thanks, Pops and Andrea. Love ya, miss ya. If you listen to last week's podcast, if you're listening in chronological order here, it was Dundas Cactus Fest here in Dundas, Ontario. And Reckless Harbor, my band. Shout out Reckless Harbor with a W. Go check us out on all social medias. We're working on an album right now, so hopefully we'll have that out soon. Or at least a couple songs first. We're going to get it on there. Streaming has made things so interesting for music. I've spoke about this before, but you know, the concept of an album kind of doesn't necessarily exist anymore, and it's all about kind of keeping things fresh and keep pushing and getting songs out there. And you know, artists still release albums, but you know, it doesn't necessarily matter because people don't necessarily listen to them completely in, speaking of chronological order, they don't always listen to the albums like in the order of the songs as it used to be. Again, people were limited by the technology. It was a record. It had a defined length. I think it was only 24 minutes aside, 48 minutes altogether. So you had to work within those constraints. You had to work inside those constraints, right? So it changed the way you thought about an album, and then you started getting concept albums again, because when you have those boundaries, especially in art form, right? Like, you know, the same goes for visual art as well, and other things where the technology can only get you as far as you can go. There's certain artists that push that boundary and find that absolute end, cutting edge, that very, very, very razor thin part of the edge of technology or art or whatever it is. They get to that point, and that just shows kind of where the extremes are. You know, I heard this really interesting quote where it's like, artists are highly sensitive individuals that observe the outside world and then report back to others that aren't necessarily as sensitive, right? And there's something about that, you know. There's something about going to those extremes and surviving and reporting back to the masses and understanding that, hey, there's so much more out there. There's so much more to this world that we're living on. There's this plane of existence, and there is a cutting edge to it. And if we get closer and closer to it, we can keep moving it forward. But if we shy away, there's no way that there's going to be any progression. So again, it's interesting, you know, the way things are moving with streaming technology, and I guess it's the future, and I guess it's the way it's going to go, and that's how you do it. And that, like I mentioned before, when you have a band, you're essentially chalking streaming dollars up, or like the money that's spent on like recording an album, you're kind of like chalking that up to marketing dollars, essentially. So again, when you're streaming, I think maybe things have changed over the last couple of years, but probably not. For every 1 million streams, you get $8,000. This is a pretty general rule for all streaming sites. And if you're Drake or, you know, Lil Spice or somebody, Lil Spice, I don't think that's even person. Ice Spice, oh my god. Lil Nas X, I don't know, people who have millions of streams, all these major artists, country artists, Taylor Swift. If you're these people and you're getting 100 million streams, yeah, that's great. You're gonna get your 8 mil, or yeah, right? Like, that's cool. You're making all this money, and it grows exponentially, and all these big artists, it's great. And of course, we want incentive to have more and more streams. Hold on. I will fully admit I am awful at math. So for every 1 million streams, it's $8,000 times 100. No, so if you have 100 million streams, you get $800,000. Duh. Still awesome. That's great. Some of these artists are getting close to, you know, over 1 million for sure. So, but for the small artists, and you're getting less than 1,000, you know, you're literally getting cents. You're literally getting like cents on the dollar. And again, that's just the way things go. And if you don't participate in those things that are moving forward, how can you really understand where things are coming from? And yeah, that's not to say that you can't honor traditions and still look to the past, but you know, things move forward in a way that you have to kind of like take part in it to kind of move with it. So Reckless Harbor was to bring us back around. Reckless Harbor played a show, actually 2 45-minute sets at Cactus Fest in Dundas. Again, thank you so much for having us. Again, we love playing it. It was our 1 year anniversary of the show. Unfortunately, our violinist John Harley took a fucking bad spill in a car wreck and was injured and couldn't really play. He came up for a couple songs like a trooper, but damn, he was banged up, and it was hot out, and it takes a lot, man. It takes a lot out of you when you have, like, you know, he suffered a mild concussion, and, you know, those kind of things don't, like, you can't play around with that. And when you play like a live show, things get really, it's when you're playing music, you're using your entire brain, right? Like you're using obviously your memory, you're using visual cortexes, you're using all types of different things. You're using your motor cortex, obviously, to play the instrument. There's just so many different things that you're using that your brain is just lit up like a Christmas tree. Again, memory banks, visual cortex, especially when you're reading music at the same time. Not that John's reading. Well, fuck, he was actually reading because we did a John Prine cover. But again, there's something there's something so special about what John did there, and the drive and dedication, and yeah, we had to do most of the work. We had to pick up the slack, but it was tons of fun, and it was funny because it was kind of like an acoustic stripped down version, even though John is also like he plays an acoustic instrument too, right? So like we're all basically playing acoustic instruments except my electric bass, but it even felt like a little bit more acoustic. But we got great response from the crowd. Thank you everyone who did actually come. It was a fun show. Again, I think the weather dictated a lot of how I felt after the show. I was fucking pooched. I didn't get a lot of sleep the night before because I had a great weekend with the boys. A lot of my old friends from my previous band. We hadn't had a chance to spend a lot of time together. We got to have lots of fun. We went out golfing, and when I got home the Saturday night, we were up pretty late, but then we had to get going pretty early because we was out in Thornbury, and I had to get back here for the show for noon. So anyway, we had to super boogie out of there and got back. So I was running on kind of fumes already, but I pulled it together. Tons of fun. It's kind of funny. Even tonight, I was thinking about doing this podcast and being like, all right, time to boost, get the energy up, get it ready. And as soon as I sat in this chair, I was like, all right, here we go. We're back in business. And it was kind of the same thing about being on stage, right? Like you pull it out when you need it, right? It's like, I have that thing about being in a new environment. Like when you're in, it's like sports. When you go to the gym that you're about to play, right? Like on the court that you're about to play, or in the field that you're about to play. When you enter that arena, everything changes. You are now in that place to do that thing. You're on that field to play football, right? You're in that library to study, right? Like that's how I always was, or that's how I always like to operate. I like to that's how I feel. Like go to work, you go to work kind of thing, right? And that's the same thing with this, same thing with being up on stage. So it was tons of fun. Again, hot as balls. We were under a shade, but still steaming hot. And we were like 5 feet away from a gas generator that was just ripping the whole time. Like that was powering the stage, which thank goodness, but I wish we could have like had it about 10 more feet away because it was a little loud, and then just fumes, man. It couldn't have been good to be slurping down on all them fumes. But again, I kind of had this weird vibration after the show where, yeah, I was just pooched, just tired. And it's kind of a sad juxtaposition because you feel so good on stage and you want to give, and you have to put on this air about you. You're entertaining people. And again, I feed off that. I love it. I love doing it. But it is a little bit of a double-edged sword. It does drain you, especially when you're already on low energy, right? So looking forward, hopefully, if I get a chance to play a lot more often, that's going to be really important, is being able to know how to recharge, how to sit down, how to think, how to say, okay, how do I actually center myself and bring myself back to this, and then able to rest, right? Because rest is so important. I think we don't rest enough. It's summertime, right? Summertime up here in in the Great White North. So you only have so much time to get after it. And I've been definitely getting after it. And, it's always nice to kind of pump the brakes every once in a while and slow down. But at the same time, living life isn't going to hit the pause button. I wish we could all hit the pause button on life. But sometimes it doesn't happen like that. So again, you got to take care of yourself. You got to say hi to your loved ones. You got to send the love out to the people, because that's what the world is made of. That's what the universe consists of, is love. It's love, it's energy, it's peace. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening. That was a great episode. I really had fun. Stream of consciousness, throwing that out there. Listen, tell your friends. Hit us up, patreon.com/thebigmarkpod. I love y'all. Come on the podcast. I need a guest over here. We got the empty seat. It's calling your name. Talk to you soon, everybody. Peace.